Turn to Nehemiah chapter 6. What an interesting chapter we have to study. Not many of us here, but I'm sure you'll be glad that you were here to be able to do this. And we'll just follow along with the text and see what we can learn. And so the wall was finished. That's my favorite line in this chapter. We talked about all the difficulties that they went through to build that wall. And so I'm going to not try to keep us too long. I won't read all those off, but we had all these difficulties in the place of building the wall. And there's some other things that they needed to overcome. You might call this chapter of overcoming. In this little chapter, we're going to see there's 4 more things they had to overcome. And these all start with the D. They overcame distraction, deformation, danger, and deception. Okay? So we'll watch for that as we go through this chapter, and we'll see how that works. Here's the memory work. Georgia? Where'd Georgia go? Okay. That Sanballat and Geshem sent unto me, saying, Come, let us meet together in some one of the villages in the plain of Ono. But they thought to do me mischief. And I sent messengers unto them, saying, I'm doing a great work, so that I cannot come down. Why should the work cease, whilst I leave it and come down to you? Okay, let's put this into perspective here. Look at the chapter. This is a distraction. That wall was finished. All they had to do is put up the gates. Let's distract them, and maybe we can keep them from finishing their task. Nehemiah 6 and verse 1. Now it came to pass when Sanballat and Tobiah and Geshem the Arabian and the rest of our enemies heard that I had builded the wall and that there was no breach left therein, though at that time I had not set up the doors upon the gates, that Sanballat and Geshem sent unto me, saying, Come, let us meet together in some one of the villages in the plain of Ono. But they thought to do me mischief. Nehemiah knew what they were up to. The plain of Ono. I think the comment that you have is Nehemiah, come to the plain of Ono. And Nehemiah says, oh no. You're not going to trick me that way. It's not exactly sure where that plain was, but just think if they could get him out of that city, what mischief they could do to him. And even so, just like, well, let's just talk about this together. That's what we need to do. Why don't we sit down and talk? They had tried everything to stop that wall. I tell you what the word for that is today. Dialogue. Let's have dialogue. You're doing this, and we're tired of arguing with you about it. You keep winning all the debates. Let's not have a debate with propositions. Let's have dialogue. Maybe if we understand each other better, then you'll stop doing what you're doing, is what they want to do. So they're trying to distract, aren't they? And he said, I sent messengers unto them, saying, I'm doing a great work, so that I cannot come down. Why should the work cease whilst I leave it and come down to you? And they sent unto me 4 times after this sort, and I answered them after the same manner. I'm not going to get distracted. I'm doing a great work. Let me tell you something that you can do. There's always someone that'll come up and say, you know, you need to do this, or you ought to do that, or you need to do this. You make sure you're doing the right work. A great work. You don't have time to do everything. And don't beat yourself up over things you can't do when you're doing the most important things well. Do the great work. And then say, no, I don't have time for this, and I certainly don't have time for distraction. Well, that didn't work. So let's try deformation. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll send an open letter about Nehemiah. And let all the nations around here see it. And we'll accuse him and put it in an open letter about what he's trying to do, and so defame him. Here it is. Then Sanballat and his servant unto me in like manner the 5th time, with an open letter in his hand. That means everybody can read it. They've gone to him 4 times and he wouldn't come. Put it in an open letter and let everybody read this now. And here's what they said. Wherein was written, it is reported among the heathen, and Geshem saith it, that thou and the Jews think to rebel, for which cause thou buildest the wall, that thou wouldest be their king according to these words. And thou hast so appointed prophets to preach of thee at Jerusalem, saying, there's a king in Judah. And now it shall be reported to the king according to these words, come now, let us take counsel together. Nehemiah wasn't fooled. He knew the king. He knew Artaxerxes. He wasn't worried about what message went to him. Artaxerxes had confidence in Nehemiah, and Nehemiah knew it. Go tell the king if you want to do it. Nehemiah sent unto him, saying, there are no such things being done as thou sayest. Thou feignest them out of thine own heart. He called his bluff. I know what you're doing. And there's no such thing as that going on here. We'll put him in danger. Let's threaten him with danger and make him afraid. Here's what we'll do. And so they cooked up this scheme. For they all made us afraid. That's what they're doing. We're going to scare them. We'll scare them out of finishing this wall, saying, their hands shall be weakened from the work, that it may not be done. It's talking about fear. There's a response to fear where it just freezes you. You're so scared you can't do anything. And so that's what we'll do. We'll make them so afraid that they won't be able to do anything. And so now therefore, O God, strengthen my hands. That's what Nehemiah did. Nehemiah knew how to deal with these things. I'll pray. And time and time and time again, Nehemiah defeats his enemies and defeats the devil behind them because he goes to God in prayer. So he says, oh God, strengthen my hands. Afterward I came to the house of Shemaiah, the son of Deliah, the son of Mehetabeel, who was shut up. And he said, let us meet together in the house of God within the temple. And let us shut the doors of the temple, for they will come to slay thee. Yea, in the night they're going to come slay thee. Nehemiah, you better take cover. I tell you what, let's hide out in the temple. We'll be safe there. And this fella, he's already shut up. He's already closed his doors. He's hiding in his house probably, or maybe in the temple himself if he's with the priest. So come on, join me here. We better hide. And I love Nehemiah's response. And I said, should such a man as I flee? Nehemiah was not afraid. And he wasn't going to be scared. Nehemiah was a man of confident courage. And just think how it would be demoralizing for your very leader. Says, now you go out there and hang those gates, but me, I'm going to be hiding out over here. I don't want anything to happen to me. He wasn't going to have that. But there's something else going on here. In the law of Moses, it might be in the center column of your Bible, and I didn't put the text here, but you look in the law of Moses and the cross references. If any but the priest were to go into the temple, they were to be put to death. And if any but the high priest go in the most holy place, and only at that certain time, they were to be put to death. Think what they could have done to entice Nehemiah into the temple in violation of their law, and then use that to accuse him. Says he is sacrilegious. Look what he did. He went and hid in the temple. Now he's supposed to be put to death now, isn't he? And so Nehemiah said, who is there that being as I am would go into the temple to save his life? I will not go in. One of the lessons you learn from Nehemiah, it's never right to do what's wrong. Now, it's never wrong to do what's right. And it's always right to do what's right. And it's always wrong to do what's wrong. Now, that's right, because the Bible is right. Nehemiah knew what the old law said. He wasn't going to violate it. Well, it's for your own good. It's for your own safety. I will not go in. I'm not that kind of man. So deception. Deception. And lo, I perceived that God had not sent him, but that he pronounced this prophecy against me. For Tobiah and Sanballat had hired him. Therefore was he hired, that I should be afraid and do so and sin, that they might have a matter of an evil report, that they might reproach me. Here's the prayer. My God, think thou upon Tobiah and Sanballat according to these their works, and on the prophetess Noadiah and the rest of the prophets that would have put me in fear. So verse 15, the wall was finished. Why was Nehemiah not deceived by that? Well, he knew what God had told him to do. Now, there's all kind of people out there that are ready to deceive, but you know, if you know what the Bible says, then you know everything that runs contrary to that, that's wrong. John says in 1 John chapter 5 to try the prophets to see whether they are of God, try the spirits, because many false prophets are gone out into the world. And he goes on down, it's about verse 5, 6, or 7, right in there. He says, we are of God. That's John and the apostles. He that heareth God heareth us. He that heareth not God heareth not us. Hereby you know the spirit of truth and the spirit of error. So because Nehemiah knew the truth, he was readily able to spot the error when he heard it. So the wall was finished. That's a good line after all this, isn't it? You just like you've been waiting for that since chapter 1. They did it in the 25th day of the month in 52 days. How remarkable is that? And it's so remarkable that even their enemies had to admit God has been with them. It came to pass when all our enemies heard thereof, and all the heathen that were about us saw these things, they were much cast down in their own eyes, for they perceived that this work was wrought of God. It's not over. Even though they did all the work, Nehemiah is going to have to deal now with intimidation. He's now the governor of Jerusalem. He's going to govern Jerusalem for several years. And who does he have to face as governor of Jerusalem but this man Tobiah? The very one that ridiculed the Jews along with Sanballat. And he said, well, if a fox go up against that wall, it'll fall down. That's the Tobiah. And what we learn now here is that Tobiah was well connected. Look what we see. Moreover, in those days, the nobles of Judah sent many letters unto Tobiah. And the letters of Tobiah came to them. See, he's got connections with the nobles. And then it talks about his family heritage and all. It's given him all these connections. It says, for there were many in Judea sworn unto him, because he was the son-in-law of Shechaniah, the son of Uriah, and his son Johanan had taken the daughter Meshullam, the son of Bechariah. Now, I don't know who all those people are, but I tell you, the way this is put out in context, listen, he's well connected. He's got family ties. And the nobles, they're communicating with him. And he's communicating back with them. And those are the people over whom Nehemiah is going to govern. And so intimidated by the well-connected Tobiah. It says, they report his good deeds before me and utter my words to him. And Tobiah sent letters to put me in fear. Well, this is not the last we're going to hear of Tobiah. He'll come up again in the book of Nehemiah, and we'll remember this and bring that out as that time comes. Now, I'm going to bring it to an end tonight. I don't want to take us too long, and maybe we can get home before that ice comes. But it's always right to do right. And I am just so proud when I read this. In fact, I'm right motivated to see if Nehemiah can overcome all those difficulties and build this wall in record time. We can overcome our difficulties. We're not going to let the devil discourage us or scare us or get us to back off of what we know we need to do. We need to be doing a great work. We participate in that great work and not get distracted onto the plains of, oh, no. I'll offer an invitation tonight. If you need to be baptized, we want to baptize you. If you need to be restored, we want to pray to God for you. If you have some special challenges right now that you want us to pray for, well, you can let us know that. We'll be glad to utter that prayer. So let's sing our invitation song.